Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Business Plugs Mixer. Hi, my name is Linda Murray Bullard, and they call me the Business Plug. You are going to want to tune in, so go ahead and share, like, subscribe, click the little bell to make sure you follow us. You'll want to know when we're on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And I say 7 p.m. Eastern Time, it's 7-ish Eastern Time. But thank you for joining us. Go ahead and talk to your friends, talk to your family, push them in. Like you're going to want to be in tune today. I got a great show for you guys. Before I get to that, though, I want to tell you a few things I have going on. So, my accountant and my housekeeping people, they like, yeah, you need to do this. So I want to talk about this book, and I'm not a good person with the camera, as you can see, but it's called The 40-Day Surrender Fast, and it's starting February the 1st in my group. My group is Building Your Own Six-Figure Business, and it's Building Your Own, the number 6-figure business on Facebook. So hello, Facebook over there. You answer the 4 questions and get in the group, and we're gonna do it the entire month of February. There's a chat already started. It is for those who are looking for a reset. Do you need to be reset spiritually? Do you need to reset personally? Do you need to reset your life, period? And that's what it's for. It's for those that need a reset. We want to make this year an intentional year of success. And so this book is by Celeste Owens, PhD. And it was, I think she wrote it in 2010. It has had phenomenal success. And my girl, shout out to Maria Stanfield over in the DMV. They're actually going through it right now, doing their 40-day surrender fast and having great, phenomenal results. I want my followers, my people, my family, I want you to be involved too. So we're doing ours starting in February the 1st inside my private group. It's a free group. There's so many things for business owners in there about grants and funding and education and all things business. So join the group, answer the questions, join the group, and I'll see you over there. The other thing I need to tell you about is right now I am helping businesses get certified. If you're certified, you need to be certified at your local level, your state level, and federal levels. And so I am helping businesses do that. I've actually created an ebook. And it's for those do-it-yourselfers. If you want that ebook, DM me, get in my inbox wherever you're watching this, and let me know you want to do it, and I'll tell you exactly how to get it. It is $2. I'm giving the $2 go for a fundraiser that I'm doing right now. So you're going to be able to walk away reading that ebook and do it yourself. But just in case you run into problems and you need some hand holding, that's what I'm here for. I'm helping businesses. My goal is to have 124 businesses certified by December 31st of this year. So that's my goal. And I'm working on them. I'm knocking them out. I'm giving away books and I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing everything I can to help 124 businesses get certified this year. There's a lot of funding coming down. I want to teach you about sustainability and long-term success. And so this is a whole part of that plan. So there's all my housekeeping. I've done it all. So I want to introduce you to my guest. Her name is Lynnette Doby. So you all say hello to Lynnette. Hey, Lynnette.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Linda, for having me today, this Sunday. I'm so happy to be here. And hello to Linda's amazing audience, because I haven't met y'all, but just from meeting her, I know you're amazing. So thank you for being here. Blessings.
But yeah, but thank you for joining us. And so, saying yes to the mixer. And so we're going to talk about some interesting things because the whole title of this is why it's important to tell your story, right? Mm-hmm. We all have stories. And so you're going to talk to us about telling our stories. So tell them who you are.
Yes, my name is, of course, as you can see here, Lynnette Rene Doby, and I am a writer, a ghostwriter to be specific. And I believe that storytelling is at the element and intersection of all things that are amazing in business, in life, just period. So I love to tell people's stories because I feel that that is a way that you can leave legacy behind, and that is a way that you can establish connection, and your book will go further than you could ever imagine. And so that's why I'm here.
I love it. I love it. So tell them what a ghostwriter does, because a lot of people aren't familiar with what ghostwriting means.
Yes, for sure. So ghostwriting is essentially when you tell your story to someone else, and they write it for you. And the reason why someone would want to do that is because they maybe don't have the writing ability. So we
Mm.
do it for them, for sure.
And so that you still have a means of getting your story told. And I know a lot of times we have books in us, like long. So I wrote and self-published the Well Ran Dry memoirs of a motherless child back in 2013. And I didn't even know like ghostwriters exist. It took me 7 years, let me tell you. It was because it started out as an essay. It was a personal
Hmm.
essay that I had written for myself. And I wrote that essay and just added to it over 7 years, right? Back then, there were no business coachings or writing coachings as much as there are today. But I was just moved to put my story into the universe. And so I wrote the book, and then I was moved to put it in the Library of Congress. And then I was like, okay, whatever you say, I'm doing this. So I turned an essay into a book because I wanted to see if it was book worthy. Turned it into a book, and it was a bestseller. And then moved it on to the Library of Congress. But why is it important that we tell our stories?
Well, and thank you for sharing your journey of telling your story, because I think that's important to note, because you said a couple of different things that we'll circle back to: the 7 year journey of writing your book and how far it took you. So we'll circle back to that. But to answer your direct question, it's very important for us to tell our stories, because the generations that come after us,
Mm,
just like we've read the books of those who preceded us,
exactly.
our stories are guidebooks.
Mm,
And I feel that that's the greatest gift that we can give. I always tell people legacy, legacy, legacy. And storytelling is in our blood. We are the progeny of storytellers. That's how our stories were communicated from generation to generation. It was the oration when we couldn't write because it was against the law for us to write. But then when it became legal, then we began to write things down in that old Bible with the cracked
yes.
cover. And it had all the places where you could put your lineage. And
Right.
that's a story. That's a story. That was essentially an outline. It shows who precedes you. And so you can kind of understand where you're going. So writing for us culturally is huge, as not
Mm.
only, people in general, but definitely Black diasporans and Black Americans. It's very important for us, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because that's the thing. A lot of our stories don't get told. I'm an entrepreneur and a homeowner, a property owner, because I saw the legacy of my great grandparents. But I had to have ancestry.com to find out who they were, what their names were, and what they did in life, because those stories didn't make it to me, right? And then there's a lot of uh, people cutting people off, and you don't learn about certain things. And so, in my research, I found out one of my family members had been cut off, but I've been able to reconnect with that limb of the branch of our family tree, which I am like overjoyed about that. But I knew from the first record that my great grandparents had a grandson, but I never knew who that person was or who was that person's parent, because it wasn't my grandmother. And I was raised that she was the only child. Turns out she had a sister.
Wow.
Yeah. So
See?
telling the stories, yeah. So that's why in telling our stories and learning about who we are and what we are and where we've been and who we've been and all these other things that we can learn. Some people say they don't want to do it because of the negativity or the things that happened in their past, but I'm here to embrace it all because it explains a lot.
For sure. And you're blessed that you were able to embrace that it all, because I have a client who I'm working with presently. I'm writing their book, and there are certain things that they would like to say, but they can't.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Because, right, the telling your story is from the perspective of your own. And so other people
mm.
may not like it because they see their truth in a different way, and they may remember the circumstances differently. But at the end of the day, that's why it's your story. You have
Yeah.
ownership of it. And so you can tell it to the best of the ability of how it served you or how it happened for you, is a better way to put it. And so you're very fortunate that, you were able to connect with that family, and and this may birth another book out of you. But whatever it is, whether it's for a business intention or a personal or a healing intention, books are healing. They
They
really are.
are.
That's
They
why
really truly are. And
yeah.
and they help us to understand something about ourselves. It's like it writing my story, first of all, was therapeutic. Like there was so many emotions caught up in it that I had held on to for years that I didn't even know I was holding on to. But then once I put them on paper, I could release them. And it made room for the life I live now, because I don't have that weight, those thoughts and all that. It was for me therapeutic.
I agree with you, and I'm glad that you had that experience because I find writing to be very cathartic.
Mm,
It's a brave person who can go back and touch the things that they've long buried and bring it forth in the
yeah,
pages of the book to share with the world. And so
absolutely.
it can be healing for people. It can be therapeutic, like in your case. And some people, it's a little bit too difficult for them to face because of their proximity to it. And that's when they call me
Mm,
because I can help. I interview, like how you and
mm,
I are speaking now. This is how I
yeah,
work with my clients. I interview them. I listen,
I
and
love it.
I don't just listen with my ears. I listen with my heart because I feel
Mm,
dug up a little bit more, and
yeah,
then I put it into the book. Because if I write your book, it's a page turner.
yeah,
I'm not just bringing your book just for funsies. It's a page turner
I
because
love it.
I go deeper than some writers are willing to go safely, of course, because I don't want my clients to be emotionally or mentally upset or distraught by it. But we get
Right.
to the story. We get to the story for sure.
Absolutely. And there was a post I shared the other day that when you're talking about healing, when you're talking about healing from trauma, like there's some tears associated with that. That, to let go, that the whole time I was writing, I was crying. Like I was remembering, and because writing and talking about that story takes you back to that place. And so if you've not healed from that place, then the tears help wash some of that sadness away, some of that, that those emotions, those negative emotions that you have, and you're able to tell your story. A lot of things in my book, my kids didn't know, and they were like, huh? A lot of things my family didn't know. And people who knew me didn't know. And they were like, wow, this was you. So I wanted it to be transparent. I wanted it to be honest, and I wanted it to be real. And so to tell that story, and I wrote it for a purpose. I wrote it to help teen moms. That was my purpose when I started. But then once I got started, now men contact me because it says motherless child, and a motherless child can be male or female. A motherless child can be somebody with a mother in the house. I didn't know all that when I was writing my book. My mother passed. My mother passed Christmas Day 1969. And so my book was about living without my mother. And I had the title long before I had the book. But then in telling that story, I had men come up to me and say, well, yeah, I'm identical to my father, and my mother abused me. I've had girls to say that their mothers were not in position to be mothers for them, and that they've suffered hurt because of that relationship. Like I've talked to so many people that I did not intend my book for, who became my audience and who understood what I was talking about simply because of their own. When I wrote the book, I thought to be motherless was meant your mother died, like my mom, and that was my intention. But then learned a lot along the way, and writing our books empowers other people to tell their stories. I've had so many people read my book and do that. Yeah.
Exactly. And thank you for sharing that because it's your bravery in committing yourself to writing those pages that had
Mm,
people that touched people you didn't even have an idea or a vision. But guess what? The creator knew that someone needed to read those words, and you can't get any more powerful than that. I mean,
mm,
the span of people that you touched from your book, you had no idea. All you knew is that your story needed to come out of you, from your soul, from your essence, and be told,
mm,
and you didn't
mm.
know who it was going to touch. And that's how selfless you are in telling your story because you weren't tied to the outcome. You just
Yeah.
told it and it connected where it needed to. And you can't tell me there's nothing more powerful than that. I love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So do you find, so take us through like when you first get a client, because a lot of times when people are telling their story, you're vulnerable.
Ooh,
You're in a special place. And
yeah.
so tell us how you move them from that vulnerability, that very raw place where they may never have experienced before, to being proud that, okay, now this is out there?
Mhm. I want to tackle this question in two different ways. Number one, I had to do some inner work myself. I
Mm.
had to go and look at my places that were dark and dirty and clean them up and
Mm.
shine them
Mm.
up. Because in order for me to go through it, then I can help other people go through it.
Absolutely. I get
And
that.
so that was part one, yes. And then part two, and I want to share this with other fellow ghostwriters or writers out there. I would recommend that you're a people person and you do this job. You can't just, well, I wouldn't advise, they can do whatever they want. I wouldn't advise they get in front of a computer, in front of a video conferencing software and just speak to someone nonchalantly. Okay, so what's this part going to be? Da-da-da. No, it's a relationship that you have to build. You've got
Mm.
to prime that pump. I don't start from day one. Okay, so tell me about when you were 12. No, 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 no. We we work. We work. I want to know from you. Yeah, exactly. It can be
Yeah.
shocking. It can
Yeah.
be, that's not a good situation. So I start from where they want to start. It's not, I'm not a licensed therapist, counselor, or anything like that, but I would kind of liken the process to that sort of relationship building within the safe space of
Mm-hmm.
my interviews, because that's what I essentially do. I interview them. So over time, to answer your question, the comfort, it grows because it has to be built and people can feel your authenticity. If you're not authentic, the
Yeah.
book's not going to be good because they don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable with you. They're like, what? Do you know what you're doing, girl? you know,
What? Say what?
what? Right. So you have to prime that pump and you can't see, because ghostwriting is a very lucrative, career. It is, but you can't see it as money. It is, you're serving the story. The moment that it gets off of the story, gets off of the client, the book is trash.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine that. I can imagine that totally. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so you do memoirs
And nonfiction business books.
and
Yes.
nonfiction business. Okay, great, great, great. So yeah, so when a person is coming to you and they're like, I have an idea for this book.
Mhm.
And in my case, it was because people kept saying, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. Like I've heard that, I would tell people about different segments of my life, and they would say, you need to write a book. And so my boss was like, girl, put that in a book somewhere and help somebody, and he was the one that okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And that's when the essay began. So when you are helping somebody tell their story, but they don't know where to begin, right? They don't know what I know I want to tell my story, or I know I have a story in me, but where do I start? How do I start? How can they prep for meeting you?
Oh, excellent. And I actually just wrote a post for my LinkedIn that'll be posted this week. And it talks about, how the journey of the book began. So I'll let people wait for that post, but I want to say this in this conversation. If someone approaches me and they want to work with me, I just ask for three things. I need a vision. We've got to know exactly where you want to go with this book, what you
Mm,
want the book to do for you, what you want the book to do for your reader. You got to have a vision, because I've gotten people on the phone and I understand, sometimes people are super excited. They want to learn more about what I do. But then when I get to the questions, they're like, oh, I'm straight. No, I'm good. Because this is business, it's a fun thing. It's a creative, I call it a professional service that's deeply rooted in creativity. So it is fun, but it's a business, because we both have to have a vision to get to where
absolutely.
we're going. Number two,
Absolutely.
the client has got to have time. You're
Mm,
gonna have to spend an hour with me weekly. And some people are like, oh, that's nothing. But I work with a lot of high profile, high performing executives like yourself. Like, you've got to have time to chisel out with me, to meet with me weekly, an hour a week, because that's how I get the content. I have to hear the
mm,
content and I record it, of course, but I'm not just copy editing from the transcript of the recording. No, I'm building your story. So
mm.
we gotta both commit. And number three is B, budget. I need you to have a budget.
Think of that
This
first. I'm gonna move that one to number one.
fad. You're right, because this is a highly skilled thing. Like I cannot write a book for you, Linda, sounding like me. That's like defeats the whole purpose. I use a certain amount of words. I use a certain cadence. No, I can't write your book in my voice. So those are the
Mm,
three things that people need, to bring to me. And I'll go over it really quickly again.
Yes,
Vision, well, excuse
please.
me, budget.
Budget. Yeah, move that one to one. First, let's start with the budget.
Number two is your time. And number three is vision. So that's what
Absolutely.
I would advise people to kind of have solidified before we meet.
Absolutely. And that's because you come with a rare gift. Like it's not, and that's the thing is you are giving them, like you're building a legacy for them. Like you're putting this something in the atmosphere that people can find forever. And so that outlives their lifespan. Because I want when my great grandchildren come, they're gonna come looking for me. And they're gonna just like I found my great grandparents, they're gonna come looking for me because they're gonna be curious just like me. Okay, how are these people kin to me? Where y'all come from? And then trying to figure that out. And then where did I come from? And they're gonna find my book in a Library of Congress and say, okay, now I know something about her because it's written in my voice by me. And so they're gonna say, "Oh, she was witful. Oh, she had a humor. Oh, she made us laugh," because all the emotions are in there, and that's who I am. And so that's important. It's important for people who come behind us to know we existed and to understand us and not somebody's version of us, but who we really truly are.
Yes. How powerful is that? I mean, literally. And it's whether you wrote a memoir or a business book, because a lot of people have been told that business books have to be straight laced, not the business books that I write. I write them to be just as entertaining as your memoir. Like I want nuggets of you all throughout there, you know.
Absolutely.
So I agree with everything you said. That's beautiful.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing is a lot of times we think, oh, why tell our story? Or people say, why you want to say that? And in my book, it's the good, the bad, the ugly. Again, because I wanted to be transparent.
Yeah.
The only picture we have of my great grandmother, not my great grandmother, my grandmother, my maternal mother, is her mugshot from where she was arrested for killing our grandfather. That's the only picture we have, period.
Wow.
And I get when people say, well, that's embarrassing. But that's the only picture we have, period. And she looks identical to one of my sisters. And so we were able to say, oh, no wonder you have your nickname, because your nickname is that of her. Her name was Ella. My sister is Ella. And so there's a resemblance more than just the name. But finding that picture, it sealed why she's who she is and how her nickname came to be.
Wow. And you said something I want to touch on, Linda. You said that people are like, "Oh, that's embarrassing." It's not embarrassing if it's the truth. That was her story. We don't know the circumstances, the context. Maybe you do, and we don't have to go into it here. But like, why that happened the way it did? That's her story. It's not for us to judge. And that's another thing I want people to.
Woo, that part.
That's one thing is like, oh, and that's another post I'm going to do this week on my LinkedIn, on some content I made. It's a quote by Malcolm X, and you all will see it later on this week. So check out my LinkedIn page. But anyway, it was yes, exactly. Thank you. But it's just talking about the truth. It never changes, just our understanding of it or our acceptance of it.
That, yeah, exactly. It is what it is. It happened like it happened. I mean, whatever happened. And when you talk about stories, so it was in my trying to find out if the story was real, how I came to find the mugshot. Like her sister who lived, who I got to actually meet, said, "Oh, you act just like your grandmother." And then when we were acting our worst, because we were baby's kids, unreal, unfiltered, unfiltered. We were just terrible. But but she would say, you act just like your grandmother. Your grandmother killed your grandfather over a cup of coffee. And I was like, huh? But then the bigger story is that she suffered from mental illness that was not treated. And so we have several people in our family that have that same diagnosis. So it's an inherited thing. But once you know what it is, then you can help fight it. Like you can help make it better because you know what it is. But to say, oh, well, I'm not going, what is it? I'm not going to speak to that. I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to whatever. We have that culture too, where people say, well, I'm just going to not act like that's not even there. But no, the reality is on our DNA, mental illness runs like the River Jordan. And so understanding that helps the ones who are ill, should help the ones of us who are ill get treatment, but also help the ones of us who do not have that curse to help the ones who do, like more understanding of why they are who they are and helping them, supporting them, and helping them to be better, to have better lives. I was my brother's caretaker for 29 years because he was mentally unhealthy. But the more I learned about my grandma Ella, the more I understood him. And so that's why the stories are important.
Exactly. And remember what I said at the top of this package. I said it helps the future generations.
It does.
So imagine if her story would have been locked and shrouded behind shame and not acknowledged. You would be able to help your brother, I'm sure, but you wouldn't have the insight that you got from learning about her, for her story, her past, the context of everything. Come on. I mean, it's you can't get any more powerful than that. I keep saying that, but it's powerful.
It's life changing because it brings understanding. And so, because when I tell people, well, yeah, the only picture I have of my grandmother is when she shot my granddaddy, and people look at me like, okay. But the other side of that is she was mentally unhealthy and untreated. Like she had some issues. She was going through life, and being with my brother and understanding, because I wanted to learn life through his lens. That was important to me because it helped me to be compassionate, and it opened my heart in places that I needed it to be open in order to ensure that he had proper care. And so the stories that we cut off or that we won't acknowledge, they are what they are. And I'm glad you said it is what it is. It happened.
Right.
Because we become ashamed of who for who, I don't know. But but with him, it didn't matter to me that people would see him and feel some kind of way. My goal in life was to make sure he was happy.
That's beautiful.
And that was the thing, is I wanted to make sure as much as possible he remained actively in his life and that he had some level of control of his life. And it disfigured him over time. And I can remember a relative saying, well, I don't know why you put him on Facebook because people are going to laugh at him. And I'm like, anybody that would do that aren't attached to me. Like the people who knew me knew him, and they knew how important he was in my life. And so, I know there are people out there like that, but I wasn't doing it for that. He loved being on Facebook and being seen. He loved being celebrated. And so I wasn't thinking about the people who would laugh or see something different with him. I wanted his life to be as normal as mine.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And so sometimes, I don't know why behavior health and mental unhealthiness is such stigmatized and a taboo conversation, for us as a culture. We don't talk about, you can go to any doctor you want to, but if you go to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, then there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
And I've never understood that.
I haven't understood it either, but thought that I have is that we're so fixated on the concept of normal and normality and what's normal and what's not, when I don't really, the more I get older, I don't think that it really exists. There's no baseline of what normal is. We're so individualized and so different in so many different ways.
Yeah.
So I guess the stigma arose because people didn't want to be labeled as different or whatever the
Mm,
case is. But it's something that I think our society has ignored for so many decades, and now we're in the middle of a consequently we're in the middle of a full-fledged mental illness and mental health crisis because
exactly.
people don't want to be honest about how tough life is. It
Yeah.
really is. And so that's just, if I had to wage a guess, that's what I would say. But
Yeah.
it's a problem. It is. And I'm glad your brother had you and has you. And I hope that he's well, and
Yeah.
because
He passed it in
he did.
2019. Yeah, right
My
before the
deepest
COVID.
regards. Yeah.
Yeah, right before the COVID. Yeah.
Oh,
But to me, he would not have survived COVID. Like,
oh,
yeah, he
my
had
Lord.
too
Yeah.
many comorbidities.
Hmm.
But I got the opportunity for 29 years to show him I loved him and show him how much I loved him. And so, we were born the same year. He was born in January and I was born in December of 59. And so we were definitely, they call it January, December babies. We were definitely January, December babies. They call us Irish twins or something.
Hmm.
But we were all of that. We grew up. My first memory was him sitting in the high chair beside me. And so, yeah. And so all my life he had been there. And he was my big
Hmm.
brother until life happened and he was not. He
Yeah.
smoked some weed. People smoke weed now, and it's okay, they think, but that changed his life forever because somebody had laced it with angel dust, and it triggered our mental illnesses on our DNA. And
Sorry to
so
hear
it
that.
changed his entire life. That one occasion that he smoked, whatever, however much he smoked, it changed his life forever.
Mm.
Yeah. But
Sorry
that
to hear.
but that's just, knowing that who our family is and knowing that that's a part of our family, right? Knowing that mental illness is a part of the family helps me to understand behaviors
Yeah.
and helps me to understand what our normalcy is,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
may not be the same as someone else's.
Exactly. Exactly. And it all boils down to, once again, something else I said earlier, story.
Yeah, telling the stories.
Telling the story and knowing the story so you can impact your existence seriously, and
Absolutely.
understand and adapt is the better word to say. So
It,
yeah,
yeah, it
that's
puts you
thank
in a
you for
place
sharing
of yeah, it puts you in a place of proactive instead of reactive.
that. Hmm. Yes.
Because reactive is okay, your family member does this, that, or the other, and you have to react to whatever they do. But what about helping them to get healthy so that they not have those consequences in
Right.
situations?
Hmm.
And that's a bit better stance, and they have a good life.
Hmm. Yeah. Because it's all about the quality of life. It really
Mm,
is. It's all about maintaining and establishing what quality of life works for you, because it won't be the same for me as it is for you, the next person, people watching. It won't be the same. So it's all about finding your mixture. That's what
absolutely.
it's about. Mhm.
Absolutely. So now that we're about ready to wrap up, tell us, did we forget anything that you want to take this, that you want the viewers to take away from this interview? What is something you would like them to take away?
I have two things.
Okay.
So, number one, I want everyone who's watching to realize that you are worthy and your story is worthy.
Mm.
Like, I've had people say, well, why would anyone want to read a book from me? If you start with that, it's already defeated. You've already begun defeated, because no, you don't, it's not really any of your business to know why or who. Just do. That's literally what it is. Do the story. If you feel a pull on your spirit to write, then do it. That's number one. And then number two, I was sharing this with someone because they were like, well, what can I do if I can't afford a ghostwriter? Then I have something else for you. It's
Yay.
called Write Entrepreneurs, and it is a course curriculum that I developed with a mentor who's a former dean of a university, and he assisted me in creating it. And it's a 6-week program that I teach. You get to spend 6 weeks with me where I teach you how to
You'll
write
love it.
a
You'll love it.
nonfiction book. Yes, exactly. To where I teach you how to write a nonfiction book. It's a soft launch that I'm doing, so the price point reflects that. So it's at a fraction of the cost of what my full ghostwriting services are. And so if you want to check it out, you can go to www.write, WRITE-entrepreneurs.com and take the little quiz to see what your optimal book type is, and then you can go ahead and go through the landing page and learn about the curriculum. So my goal, because and thank you for sharing your goal earlier of how many businesses you want to get registered. I think that's beautiful, and I wish you well as you achieve that. I know you will. But my goal is to get so many people. I need to put a number with it. I want to get at least 50 to 75 people this year to understand
I
that you
love it.
can write. Your
I love
your
it.
story is worthy to be told, and I can teach you how to do it. So
I love it. I love it. And that's the thing is understanding that it's doable. It's doable. Like
yes,
there are no excuses. We're removing all the excuses because they can join you for those 6 weeks and get it done. Like get it done. Get it done.
at least
Yeah,
part of it,
yeah,
Linda, because
yeah,
you would get
yeah.
it done.
For
I know
sure.
you.
You know it. Yeah, I got that OCD or type A thing running. But yeah, so
No, me too.
put in your and I don't know if it'll let you comment or not, but put
Yeah.
the link so that I can make sure that it is here.
Okay.
And if
Yeah,
it
you
makes you
want me
go
to put it
private,
in the chat?
yes, please.
Sure, I'll be happy to.
Because I want them to have no excuses. This is a new year. I want them to do something new. I want them to go ahead and make it happen.
Mhm.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. I
I'm just
see it.
gonna make sure I spelled it correctly and it gets there. Yep, we're good.
Okay, 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 okay. So we're going to share it right
Yes,
there. Yes, ma'am.
yes.
We
Thank
got it
you.
shared, and we
Thank
are
you.
going to put it in the comments, Linda. I put it in the
Mhm.
wrong place. Okay, there it is.
That's okay.
That
Thank you.
so it's on all the different spots. So go ahead and reach out, and
Mhm.
if that's something that's on your radar, that this year you want to write your book or get started, right? Because the hardest part is getting started.
It
And
is.
so if you want to write your book, if you have a book in you, if you've been told you need to put that in a book, if you've been told, girl, your story would be a book, or if you're one of those people say, honey, my life would be a bestseller. If you've ever used any of that, then you should be clicking right now and registering in order to get this
Yes.
done, because make that one of your goals this year. I'm not into resolutions. I'm into goals, actionable goals that we can actually get things done that we want to done. Forget the bucket list. We're just knocking things out now. So go ahead and write. Go to www.write-entrepreneurs.com and enroll in that 6-week course so that you can get started, because your story needs to be told by people like you'll be like me. I had an intended audience, but God had a bigger one. And so that was the catalyst for everything I do today. That got me started. So yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
you just have to get started. And so
Thank you for that.
oh,
Thank
you
you.
are welcome. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your yes. My name is Linda Murray Bullard. If you'll hang around for just a minute after we finish, you have just joined me on the Business Plugs Mixer, where we have business conversations for business people. And I hope to see you again next Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, here on the Business Plugs Mixer. You guys have a great rest of your week. Good night.
Good night, everybody.